After Andrew, will King Charles strip Harry and Meghan of their titles next? Has Prince William been setting the tone behind the scenes as well as in public? Why is Meghan Markle's new Christmas candle causing a stink? And can you guess which young royal has been tipped to play a key role in the future of the monarchy? We have another jam-packed episode for you. Hello and welcome to another episode of Palace Confidential. I'm Jo Elvin and today I am joined by the Daily Mail's diary editor Richard Eden, who is back finally from holiday. You didn't miss much last week, Richard. It was a very quiet week on the royal front.
It was an unfortunate week to go away,
yes. It's just, you timed that very badly. Only the historic deprincing of a prince. But we'll get to that because the viewers have been very, very keen to hear your opinions, so we will be getting there in just a moment. But before we do get into all the exciting royal stories this week, it's time to remind you that if you don't already, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free and you get a reminder whenever we put out a new video. Like last night, you might have missed our fascinating interview with Robert Jobson about his new book with the suggestion that King Charles faked a doctor's appointment to cut short a meeting with Prince Harry. We've all done it. Or what he wrote about Prince Philip's alleged affairs. Now, that episode will play straight after this. And another way you can get more royal news is by subscribing to the weekly Palace Confidential newsletter. The easiest way to sign up to this free newsletter is by scanning the QR code on your screen now, or you can click the link in the description below. And if you sign up this week, then next week, you will get exclusive access to Richard's Mail Plus column that would usually be locked behind a paywall. That's pretty good, isn't it? And it's not even Christmas. How lovely are we? Now, let's get to it. This week, Prince William has been in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil for a big environmental trip, promoting his Earthshot Prize, of course, and speaking at the COP30 summit. Prince of Wales started the trip with a cable car ride up Sugarloaf Mountain before playing beach volleyball on the iconic Copacabana beach with Olympic star Carolina Solberg. Continuing the sporty streak, he then played against local children and Brazilian football legend Cafu in Maracana Stadium, where he scored a penalty. Well done, Wills. The next day, William continued to be a hit with the crowds as he held a baby during a walkabout on Paqueta Island and joked with his family that they mustn't drop him. Good advice. The prince was then taken on an eco tour of the mangrove swamp where he crouched down in the mud to help plant a tree. He later refused a hand wipe, instead washing his hands in the river. Of course, following Prince William in Rio is the Daily Mail's royal editor, Rebecca English. Of course she's there, and here is her analysis of his visit so far.
Hello from iconic Copacabana Beach in Rio, where I'm with Prince William as he undertakes 3 days of engagements in the city ahead of his Earthshot Prize Awards. Now, the one thing that's really struck me over the last few days is how confident and laser focused William appears to be. He seems to have managed to put aside all of the recent royal scandal involving his uncle Andrew back in the UK, and he's really determined to make the most of his time here in Latin America. I think what it boils down to is there's very little that inspires Prince William more than environmental issues. It's why he set up his Earthshot Prize 5 years ago in the first place. And as he said to me this week, he's been really buoyed by the enthusiasm of the Brazilian people for this issue that he holds so close to his heart. Now, something you may not realise when you see the photographs and the videos and reports from royal tours such as this is the level of planning goes into them. Kensington Palace and the British ambassador here in Brazil and her team have been working on these events over 3 days for the better part of the year. So William really hit the ground running. He barely had time for a shower and a change of clothes when he got off his overnight flight from London on Monday, headed straight up to Sugarloaf Mountain, where I was waiting along with other British and Brazilian journalists. He received a tour of the area. He saw the sights of the city along with the mayor, who also awarded him the key to the city. Now, that's a rare honour. It's only actually normally given to King Momo, who's the king of the carnival each year. And it was a sign, the mayor said to me, of how much faith they had placed in William and how proud they were of him coming here and bringing the Earthshot Prize to Rio. As he said to me, William now has the keys to the city. He's king for the next 72 hours. He can do exactly what he wants. So Monday's programme was all about setting the scene. It was a welcome to Rio. So as well as going up in the cable car to Sugarloaf Mountain, Prince William also went to one of Rio's most iconic football stadiums, where he took to the pitch along with local children and Brazil's most capped footballer ever, a gentleman called Cafu, for some drills on the pitch, and this really, I think, endeared him to the local population. But to cap that on Monday evening, he came down here to Copacabana Beach, where he played a game of beach volleyball. Now, these engagements aren't actually announced in advance for security reasons. Brazil in particular, as you may have been reading in the news, does have a crime problem and has been seeing some quite brutal clampdowns on criminal gangs in recent weeks that have proved particularly controversial. So we don't see the usual kind of crowds you would see on a royal visit because nobody knows about them in advance. But what's become very clear is as soon as people become aware that William's in here, you suddenly hear his name being chanted everywhere, the crowds are gathering, people are hanging around to watch him and to get a selfie of him, and William has taken real trouble when those crowds have gathered to make sure he meets and greets as many people as he can. On Tuesday, William was determined to put the focus back on environmental issues as he visited Paqueta Island, which was about a 40-minute boat ride out of Rio itself. It's an area of incredible natural beauty, but also importance. It's full of mangrove swamps that they are trying to reforest after terrible devastation to them. But again, what was really notable was the warmth of the welcome William received from the island people. Only 5,000 of them lived there, and it felt like pretty much most of them had come out to greet him. There were huge screams when he stepped off the boat, lots of hugs, lots of selfie, even a few royal fist bumps, and William also couldn't resist, probably as naturally for a father of three, of being given a baby for a photo call. Wednesday, of course, was all about Earthshot Prize, his landmark environmental awards designed to create a spirit of optimism around the climate change crisis. And I think it shows the star power of the royal family, but William in particular, of the calibre of people he was able to attract. The awards had a headline ceremony at which we had stars including Kylie Minogue and Shawn Mendes playing. They came here specially for it, and I think there's very few people that would be able to pick up the phone and get star power like that behind a cause they're passionate about. On Thursdays we're filming Palace Confidential. The attention turns to Belém, the gateway to the Amazon here in Brazil, where Prince William will be representing his father the King at the COP30 United Nations Climate Change Conference. It's the first time he's been asked to do this, and it's clear it's a responsibility he takes incredibly seriously. I think if you ask me what my takeaway from the last 3 days in Rio has been, is I think I've seen a slightly new side to Prince William. He's got a sense of clarity and a sense of purpose, and actually I would say a slight sense of steeliness he hasn't had before. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that he has a very clear vision of what he wants to achieve as heir to the throne and future king. I think he's still working out the fine detail of how he's going to do that, how he's going to push boundaries within the remit of a constitutional monarchy, but he's incredibly positive and forward-looking. But it's also clear William has been doing a lot of thinking over the last year. Not surprising, I would say, given what's been happening to the royal family personally. And it's quite clear he wants to continue the monarchy's journey in the future at pace. He wants it to be as relevant and dynamic as possible. And I don't think he's going to be afraid to take risk along the way, which I think will make it a very interesting period for royal watchers like us.
Oh, Richard, that was a very poignant moment there, wasn't it, when William went to visit the Christ the Redeemer statue?
Yes, it really was. Harking back to obviously when his mother had been there in 1991, I think. So, very poignant moment and beautiful photographs. I must say I'm rather jealous of Rebecca being in Rio. We're here in rainy London.
Well, she also sent us a new iconic image from Christ the Redeemer, which our viewers can see on screen now. She sent it just to taunt us, you and me, back in grey London.
I think every tourist has to pose in front of the statue.
Is it the law?
Yeah, it must be.
It must be. Well, he's holding the Earthshot Prize days before the UN climate conference, COP30, where he will deliver a landmark speech. Now, what have you made of the environmental element of this trip? Was it good to combine the two?
Well, the Earthshot Prize is fantastic, I think. It's the sort of real sort of practical scheme that I think his grandpa, Prince Philip, would have loved. You know, Prince Philip helped set up the World Wildlife Fund back in the 1960s. And the Earthshot Prize is William's attempt to do something practical, you know, try and find solutions, you know, not just be lecturing people about what they're doing wrong, but say, what can we do to help?
Yeah.
Let's try and find solutions for things and things that will improve the environment for everyone. So I think it's a great scheme. I don't know if it's a great idea, though, to do it in Brazil. So the reason he's there is because it coincides with COP30, in the rainforest, actually. But these kind of political summits, they're very controversial. You know, for example, the leaders of the biggest or the most polluting nations, China, India, the USA, they're not taking part. There's always controversy around it, and all these leaders go there, they fly in on their private jets and lecture us all about, you know, not taking holidays or something. And so I'm not sure it's great for William to be associated with that, but he obviously thought it was a chance to publicise the prizes.
Well, and I think it's true what you say, that there's a lot of incredibly optimistic, pragmatic ingenuity going on with people competing for that Earthshot Prize. And so
Definitely.
maybe it's a great influence for him to be there and
yes, and
rally the cause.
Yeah, and the prize, they are very big prizes. You know, it's £1 million each. And so it's a great encouragement for people to come up with innovative schemes, and it needs big sponsors. So perhaps, you know, coinciding with COP30 means you're more likely to get big corporate sponsors, I suppose.
I mean, the air miles are unfortunate, but what can you do? There's always a cost, isn't there?
Yes, but it is a global scheme. I mean, that's the point of it. So it makes sense. Each year they've had the award ceremony in a different country, and that's part of the appeal.
Well, William has been up to so much in Brazil that we decided to dedicate this week's montage to royals in South America. So do stick around to the end of the episode for that. And it's been a really big week for William because not only has he flown across the world for the Earthshot Prize, but he has moved finally into Forest Lodge with his young family. Now, Richard, I hear William and Catherine surprised the builders who worked tirelessly to help them move into their home.
Yes, they held a party. They held a party for, nice. I think, friends and everyone, or staff and people that have worked on the project. I don't know. I mean, personally, I've had some bad experiences with builders where they say something will take 6 months.
I suspect the royal family don't have that many bad experiences with builders.
Yeah, a year later, they're still working on it. But in this case, they've come in, you know, ahead of a budget and ahead of time. So clearly they wanted to celebrate that, and it really is, it's something to celebrate. But they'll be very pleased. You know, they're in there for bonfire night and they're starting their new life in their new home. And
what do you think it says about the Walesers? What kind of a party was it? Did they sort of like really lay on the trimmings?
I wasn't there myself, but
really?
From what I hear, it was a pub they hired. It's a local pub, so it was somewhere everyone could get to, and I'm sure it was a very jolly occasion. And there's not many people who can say, you know, they've been to a party with the royals. Yeah, William bought me a pint. Now, it does mean, of course, that the family are close to a rather unfortunate neighbour until probably around the new year. Yes, because their closest royal neighbour at their new home, Mr. Windsor, it gets confusing, doesn't it? It's the man formerly known as Prince Andrew, who now is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Anyway, Mr. Andrew Mountbatten. Uncle Andy to Prince William. And then he's not so far away in Royal Lodge. Now, obviously, they've announced that Prince Andrew and Fergie, who also lives there in this massive 30-room mansion, they will be leaving, but that won't be until Christmas, I think, or certainly soon after. So until then, yes, they will be the local neighbours for William and Catherine and family. Awkward. Well, let's stick with that relationship with William and Uncle Andrew, because the Daily Mail has revealed that both William and Catherine played a key role in his ousting. Yes, I mean, this is something that I had heard, and it's sort of been denied by people at the palace, but I think that the facts speak for themselves. Because remember the sequence of events that initially Buckingham Palace put out a statement that was from Andrew, And it was all about him. He talked about his great sense of duty and how, as part of that, he was going to stop using his titles.
Yes, as a great favour to us all, the nation.
Exactly. But then that clearly wasn't enough. And then that became clear. I mean, I said so on this programme before. And then they came back with a much stronger statement, which was not from Andrew. It was from the king, from Buckingham Palace, making clear that he had now been stripped of these titles and would be leaving Royal Lodge. And crucially, with words of sympathy towards the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, what happened between those two things? I think it's clear that William and Catherine made clear they weren't happy with what had been said and that they felt that it needed to be done.
So how much influence do you think they had in what we're calling this historic deprincing? I love this new word in the vernacular, the deprincing.
From everything I hear, William had a big influence on it. He will be the next king, and he wanted to make clear that it wasn't good enough for everything to come from Andrew and for him to be leading the way. He needed to be stripped of these titles and evicted.
See, that's what I don't understand. I kind of felt like with Andrew's initial statement, who would have signed that off from the palace? Because it seemed like then they were scrabbling around with an announcement that they realised in hindsight wasn't ideal.
Well, there's no question that original statement was signed off by the king and by Buckingham Palace. And then there was briefing afterwards that Andrew had to be sort of threatened, that the king had made clear, he'd spoken to him personally and made clear that unless he agreed not to use his titles, he would be stripped of them. So clearly the king felt that this was enough, that this would satisfy people. But it didn't, and it didn't satisfy Prince William and Catherine either, by all accounts.
Now, we talked in one of our shows last week about Andrew's siblings and perhaps them rallying around and being concerned for his welfare. I'm talking about, Anne and Edward maybe sort of like checking in on him. What do you think William's attitude is around the welfare of Prince Andrew? Do you think he's concerned about that?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that has been a big issue because, as we know, one of William and Catherine's key themes has always been mental health.
Yeah.
You might remember they launched that Heads Together scheme with Prince Harry years ago. And that's always been a big concern of theirs. So, obviously this has been an extremely difficult time for Prince Andrew. He's having everything he knows sort of taken away from him. So that would have been paramount. And to Andrew's siblings, Anne and Edward too, I'm sure. But that's the difficulty, isn't it? It's an institution as well as a family. Yeah. So, they can still love their brother, they can still love their uncle, but not want him to play a role in that institution.
What do you think of the timing of the stripping of titles? Is that a coincidence, or do you think William was desperately trying to sort out the Andrew problem before he stepped into the spotlight with the Earthshot Prize week?
Let's be clear, this is a big week for Prince William. He's been on holiday with his children during school half term, and he's come back and then is into, a week of engagements in Brazil, connected with the environment, which is one of his biggest causes. The last thing he would have wanted was for it to be overshadowed by continuing, seedy speculation about Prince Andrew and what was happening. So there's no doubt that he would have wanted it to be cleared up before he set off.
Well, unfortunately for the royal family, I don't think all the speculation has been cleared up, because due to the historic news that Andrew would be stripped of all his titles, there were not one but two episodes of Palace Confidential last week, and more than 1 million of you watched those. So thank you very much. And as you can imagine, it led to a lot of follow-up questions from our viewers. So let's try to answer some, like this one from Sheila Keeley, who said, the most important question is Andrew still in the line of succession? And if he is removed, what happens to Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie? Can you clear this up for us, Richard?
Yes, Andrew, despite losing his titles and his honours, is still eighth in the line of succession.
See, and that's confusion issue number one.
Obviously it's unsatisfactory because why would you want a man who has been stripped of everything to be our head of state?
Surely that means that you can be in the line of succession. Do you know what I mean? Like Mr. Richard Eden, what's the difference between you and Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor?
You're right, yeah. How can he not be a prince but be in the line, that sort of thing? But it's a tricky one, isn't it? Obviously it would need a huge disaster for him ever to become
Just
king.
gonna touch wood.
Yeah, touch wood. And of course, Prince Harry and his children are also in that line of succession. Personally, I would like them to be removed from it in the same way that, he is still a Councillor of State. And obviously the palace, they've been stressing, oh, don't worry, it's been made clear we'll never need them. But the point is that they remain, and it's discrediting to the monarchy to have them there.
Well, and as we've seen from recent events, things that you never thought you'd see can become apparent, can't they? So
they really can, unfortunately, and things do happen. So personally, I think that should still happen. But anyway, look, from my point of view, let's be thankful that, Prince Andrew has been stripped of his titles. It's been made clear, in a very positive way that the King and Prince William have a sense of what's right.
Well, in terms of that, do you think that is what's wrapped up in keeping him so far in the line of succession? Is it something to do with the King's mindfulness of protecting the princesses?
Yes, I mean, it's a really interesting point, because Beatrice and Eugenie would also lose their places in the line of succession if Prince Andrew was removed from it. They are only in it because they are his daughters. And
he can't play chess, as it were, and sort of like take that one out but keep those ones in.
No, I mean, so look, on the face of it, I think I posted online at the time, it just seems so odd that you've got two women who are princesses when their father's not a prince. But as lots of people point
out... you got in a lot of trouble for that, didn't you?
Lots of people pointed out the fact.
It's not their fault. Yeah.
The fact is that they are princesses because they are grandchildren of the Queen, Elizabeth. But obviously there are other grandchildren, such as Peter Phillips and Zara, who don't have those titles. But that was because of a decision made by their parents. Yeah. But the point is that they didn't have to have those titles, and it would just be so awkward. Let's be frank, it is really awkward now to have these princesses. But I think the King was very mindful of that, and he does not want to punish them. He has respect for them.
It must be such a stressful time for them at the moment anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Why should they suffer because of, their father's unfortunate friendships and, dubious decisions? So I think that the King was, mindful of not damaging them, and that's why they're still princesses and they're still in the line of succession.
And there was a quote sort of saying something like, they don't want to be tainted by the sins. We don't want them tainted by the sins of their father. No,
we're a civilized society, we hope, and you don't punish children for things that their parents have done.
Well, someone on last week's live stream asked if this meant that Andrew would now have to bow to his daughters if they remain princesses. He went like that, really.
It's a really interesting point. And actually, I had a diary story this week. My main job is editor of Eden Confidential Social Diary. I had a story this week about how Prince Andrew has always been very hot on things like the courtesies and the curtsying and bowing. And there was one point after he split up with Fergie when he was going out with his girlfriend at the time was a woman called, very glamorous woman, inevitably, Emma Gibbs. And she was living at this house in Chelsea. And when Andrew would visit and he would stay the night, he would insist that her landlady would curtsy to him. And this lady was not very happy about it. She said, well, wait a minute. So you come to my house, you stay the night, and you expect me to be curtsying to you, So she used to tell everyone about that. So the idea of...
It's just a right old deal, isn't it?
It really is. So the idea of Andrew having to bow to his daughters is amusing. But the truth these days is that people tend to bow and curtsy only to the King and Queen. They don't really do it.
If he was my dad, I would be cross enough to make him do it at least once in the next few days.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, a question from Heidi Gilmore now, who asks, could Princess Beatrice be made the new Duchess of York? Can the dukedom be handed down to her? Is it a possibility, or are we sort of like retiring that dukedom for the time being?
So it's been sort of withdrawn, but anyway, neither of his daughters can inherit it. It is male primogeniture who inherit these dukedoms. So no, there will be no Duchess of York from either of them.
Wow. Okay, so we probably won't see that again in our generation then.
No.
Interesting.
Goodness knows if we'll ever see it again.
Well, there were also a lot of concerns in the comments for some four-legged royals, which always captures my heart. Now, Martina asks, what will happen to the late Queen's corgis who were staying in the Royal Lodge with Fergie?
I have to say that was one of the first things I thought about as well. Because look,
the dog lovers.
Let's explain to the viewers that as the Queen got much older and was in failing health, she sort of vowed not to get any more corgis, not to get any more dogs, because it just didn't seem right. She wanted to be there for their lifetimes, essentially. But she loved dogs, as everyone knows. And so Prince Andrew, as he then was, and Fergie said, would you like dogs? And she agreed only on the basis that when she died, they would look after them. And so she had these dogs. I think she loved having them. And since her death, Andrew and Fergie have looked after them at Royal Lodge at Windsor.
How many do you know?
Photos. It's 2 dogs, isn't it?
Okay.
Mick and another one, his name escapes me. And so
those dogs are going to be very upset about moving into a 5-bedroom house, don't you think?
So the palace have made clear, because lots of people have asked this question, that the dogs will stay with Andrew and Fergie. But that's quite complicated, because it's also been made clear that Fergie won't be living with Andrew.
Yes.
Andrew's going to be moving to Sandringham, so I presume the dogs will be going with him rather than staying at Windsor. But it's... Anyway, I will try to update the...
Do find out. Apparently, Rick and Sandy are our dogs' names, and
Mick and Sandy,
Mick and Sandy, and we want to hear about their welfare.
Well, when I hear more, but certainly for now, until Andrew moves, they'll be staying at Windsor. And I will try to find out updates and put them in my column, perhaps.
I would love to know a lot more about the life of a royal dog. I bet that's probably fancier than my current living standards.
Oh, I think they've had a great life because, Royal Lodge, as well as being a really big mansion, has extensive grounds. I mean, it's got the amazing Wendy House in it as well that was given for the Queen. And
have they got staff?
Well, the Royal Chapel as well, where you've had, was it Beatrice's wedding was, at the Royal Chapel, which is actually in the grounds of Royal Lodge. That's why it hasn't been able to be let out privately in the past.
I mean, every dog thinks it's royalty, don't they? So imagine if an actual royal dog, it must be just unbearable.
Look, my dog's called Windsor. I mean, he's already like the king of our house.
That's Mr. Windsor to you.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of questions about the impact that the de-princing of Andrew might have on Harry and Meghan in Montecito. Jacqueline Potgieter wrote in and said, hi from South Africa, love the show. Hi, Jacqueline, thank you. Now, we can see that there are consequences for actions and that titles, etc., can be taken away. Could there be consequences for Harry and Meghan? Could they have their titles revoked?
This is so interesting. I mean, regular viewers might remember I had a bit of I won't say argument, but I was a bit of a debate with my colleague Robert Hardman a couple of weeks ago, last time I was on, because he was suggesting that it was a really big thing to strip titles, and that's why it hadn't been done to Andrew, that it was really difficult.
4 days later.
It would take up parliamentary time.
Yeah.
But the king has just proved how simple it is. He can do it immediately. Now, that is exactly the same with Harry and Meghan, and by goodness, they should be fearful of it happening to them, because we know how important titles are to them. I mean, this is the couple who, despite living in America, the most egalitarian nation in the world, insisted on their children being called Prince and Princess.
Yeah.
They announced that, which to me just seemed absurd, really. And also, Meghan, remember in her TV programme actually correcting a guest who dared to call her Meghan Markle. So
Yep.
I'm Meghan Sussex now.
Yep.
So these Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles mean a lot to them, and the king has just shown how easily they could be taken away.
But how likely, let me ask you this sort of 3-point question, how likely do you think it is? What would be the justification, and would you support that move if the king actually did make it?
Personally, I would support it now. I wish he would do it now. But I think it has to be something very serious. Let's be clear, with Andrew, in this case, after revelations in the Mail on Sunday, he was proved to have lied to the nation in his BBC interview about his contacts with a convicted sex offender. That's how serious it was. And that's why the king finally did it. So they won't be doing it if they're mildly annoyed by the latest interview given by Harry or Meghan.
Well, because that's what I feel like. If you start meddling with it every time someone's annoyed you, then where do we stand on the whole birthright principle of being
That's what I mean.
a
You know,
prince.
someone will sort of, you know, fall out of a nightclub late
Yeah.
at night or something, and they'll be saying, strip him of his title.
Yeah.
You know, so it would have to be very serious. And I think that is the precedent, that it would only be something that genuinely brings the monarchy into disrepute, which Prince Andrew had undoubtedly done.
Well, that leads us nicely to our next discussion. Meghan Markle has announced as ever's holiday collection. I bet you're so excited, Richard. There was an article in the Daily Mail last week that suggesting that some of the products bear a striking resemblance to the King's Highgrove range. Is that fair?
Yes, I think it's very fair. I mean, I think the sort of design and the lettering of the Meghan's products has always been quite regal. But these comparisons are inevitable because, let's be honest, it wasn't the most original idea, was it, what she was doing, you know?
Well, you know, are there any original ideas?
True. Yeah, it's just her jams, whatever. And it's something which the King has been doing through his Highgrove products and through the Duchy Originals, which, you know, I mean, the key thing, though, is with the King's products, they had a unique selling point, which was that they were organic. And that used to be very unusual. You know, it's the King that had pushed organic farming. And that was what people would know when they were buying his products. They would be organic. But that's not the case with Meghan's.
Well, Oprah's got behind it. She's included Meghan's signature fruit spread gift box in the list of her favourite things this year. And a candle that Meghan has produced has caused a stir. Now, Meghan's pal Gwyneth Paltrow has famously sold a candle called This Smells Like My Vagina. Sorry, everyone.
Where are we going with this?
So what does Meghan say her candle smells like?
It's outrageous, isn't it?
Not mine, Palace Confidential viewers. I'm very sorry, I promise. So what does Meghan say her candle smells like? What's it called?
Oh, my goodness. No, Meghan's at least is not quite that vulgar, but it's...
What's vulgar about the vulva?
Hers is called 519, which is the date of her wedding, or her second wedding to Prince Harry, was on the 19th of the 5th, 19th of May.
Of course.
And I think the smell is meant to sort of evoke the English countryside.
Okay.
So she's obviously alluding to her wedding. She's cashing in on the royal connection again.
So cynical, Richard.
Yeah, but Oprah's endorsement, wow. I mean, you know, as soon as Oprah had included it in her list, I received an email. Ping, my email inbox went from Meghan saying, we're so grateful. And I think like that's genuinely significant because, you know, Oprah has played a significant role in Harry and Meghan's life in America with the explosive interview which they gave. And I've always felt since then that Oprah was a bit wary of them. You know, I do sort of got the impression she had mixed feelings about them. But they're clearly friends. We've seen them. They've been to parties together. And now this is Oprah giving them an endorsement, which, let's be frank, will be very valuable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But do you think it's a bit weird, possibly even hypocritical, to be selling a candle that sort of like plugs and evokes the English countryside that when we all know she fought quite badly to get away from? And, you know, and the wedding, she told Oprah, was, quote unquote, just a spectacle for the world.
Yes, the real wedding, of course, was the night before from the Archbishop of Canterbury in their backyard.
Not the way he tells it, but okay. Yeah.
But no, I mean, look, I'll be honest, I do not understand Meghan at all. I mean, you know, maybe the viewers understand her better than me, but it's so confusing. You know, on the one hand, it's all terrible in England, but now memories seem to have changed and she remembers all the good things. We've heard before about her talking about her love of, you know, English teas and these things, but these happy memories always coincide with new products. She's
that's lucky.
She's at least willing to look on the bright side and make a few quid out of it.
Well, more from Montecito now, as there was a report that Meghan had parted with, I had to actually check this because I couldn't quite believe it, her 10th publicist in 5 years. Wow. What is going on there?
Yes, this was Emily Robinson. And again, I couldn't quite believe it was true. But so she had left after just 3 months. Well, that gave me a sense of deja vu because I wrote previously about Prince Harry's chief of staff, Josh Kettler, who also left after 3 months.
So that's the threshold at which you can stand it.
Well, I don't know about the employment situation in the USA, but in Britain, generally, you have a 3-month probationary period.
Yes.
Where that can be ended either by the employer or employee. So it does look like these two might have done the 3 months and thought, you know what, I don't want to stay here.
So what do you think's going on there? Because also, why do you think they have this revolving door? But if you're looking at that from the outside and thinking, should I apply for this job? Are you thinking, well, it'll look good on the CV to have worked for them, even though I know clearly it's possibly going to be a nightmare?
Yeah, I think you would certainly know it's a high-profile job, wouldn't you? And they are always quality people that are working for them. You know, in the case of Josh Kettler and Emily Robinson, really impressive CVs.
So it must pay well.
So I think they probably thought, pays okay, and it'll be good for the CV. But then when they do it, for whatever reason, they clearly do not want to stay. And remember, when there was criticism of the high turnover of staff, there was this really weird feature that then appeared in Us Weekly in America, where Harry and Meghan got like all their kind of employees and previous ones to talk about how wonderful it was working for them. And bizarrely, they even included quotes from Josh Kettler.
Oh.
And you thought, I think I tend to judge people by their deeds rather than their words. And the fact these people don't stay around long just says an awful lot.
Well, there was already controversy, wasn't there, when Emily Robinson was appointed in June?
Well, she'd come from Netflix and she'd worked as a publicist on The Crown, which, we've talked about that its inaccuracies and its controversies because of the way, some of it's been appalling, really. And I have to say,
and quite tasteless at points where they've had the ghost of Harry's mother in episodes. And
I would say, for example, one thing with hindsight is really objectionable is their portrayal of Mohammed Fayed. They made him seem like this really kind of lovely character when he was appalling, and it's since come out about his mass sexual harassment of staff and everything. They got that badly wrong. That was very controversial anyway when she came. But maybe we'll hear from these people eventually, but probably not.
But it's so interesting, isn't it? It's not a glowing review for working for the Sussexes and what that's like, is it? I mean, and how they get their messages out there. It's crazy.
Well, when they leave, they get to join a new organisation, which is the Sussex Survivors Club.
Membership growing at an alarming rate.
From what we've heard, there are far more members of that than there are people who currently work for them.
Do you think there's a T-shirt?
To be fair to them, what they've stressed is that you're always going to get high turnover, particularly when you're trying to do different things, as they're doing. And people are meant to be there for a short term. That's what they say.
3 months in a job, that's the time to get your feet under the table before you even really know what the job is.
3 months is terrible, isn't it? I would say the sign of a healthy place to work is that people want to stay and choose to stay there for some time because they enjoy it.
Well, interesting, isn't it? There's also been revealed this week that Meghan reportedly will be returning to acting that's a surprise move in a movie called Close Personal Friends with Brie Larson and Lily Collins. That's quite a lineup.
Yeah, it really is. So I saw this last night. It was on the front page of The Sun today, and so I feel terribly cynical when I say things like this, but just early this week I'd been reading a report from America about how Hollywood was sick of Harry and Meghan. It was tired of them with their silly ideas, and there were reports about, Harry turning up for meetings.
And where was this? The Hollywood Reporter, was it?
No, it was in the New York Post, the report. But it's sort of similar things that we've heard before as well. And a sort of sign of that is that, remember, the whole point of them in Hollywood was going to be as a production company. They were making various things. Well, we haven't heard much about that. But now we have the news that she's going to star in this film. And the person she's going to play, the character she's going to play, is most fascinating of all, herself.
Are you joking?
No.
What do you mean, like literally, here's Meghan being Meghan or a character like herself? Yeah,
so goodness knows how long this this role will be. But it could be sort of a la Donald Trump in Home Alone 2, I think.
Well, that's a classy comparison. Yeah.
Or our viewers of an age might remember Sarah Ferguson appearing in an episode of Friends.
Yes.
I'll admit, I haven't actually seen that, so I've just heard about it.
Oh, yeah.
Was it good?
It was all right, yeah. I think she meets Joey. Who wouldn't want that? Yeah.
But I love this idea of Meghan playing herself as well. because I would say, look, the newspaper that reported this, The Sun, was hyping it up as its, return to Hollywood after 8 years or something.
But didn't she say she was done with acting and now here she is?
Look, let's be honest, this is so significant and so interesting.
What
And
do you
I'll
think
tell
it
you why.
means?
It's because Meghan wanted to leave that behind. Towards the end of her time on Suits, the legal drama, she was getting much more involved in her blog, The Tig, and it was clear that she wanted to move away from acting. Then she came to Britain, people would say looking for a husband. Anyway, she found Prince Harry and gave it up immediately. And even more interesting, in Harry's memoirs, Spare, he talks about how the king had made clear he was happy for Meghan to carry on acting. And not only did Harry say, no, she doesn't want to act, but he was really offended because he took it as meaning that the king didn't want to pay for Meghan.
Right.
That
okay,
basically the implication, to Harry at least, was she can carry on earning money. And Harry didn't want her to, she didn't want to, so this was seen as a great insult. But now she's going back to acting. And I would say, look at why is she going back to acting? And I would say it's because the other things they're doing are failing.
Or, to play devil's advocate, it could be that was her first love. Maybe she just misses that creative outlet.
She could, but if you miss the creative outlet, what would you do? Perhaps sort of take a demanding stage role or something like that? You wouldn't just go and play yourself, would you?
So what do you think, we talked about earlier about how important titles and names are. What do you think should be credited as in the titles? Will
oh my goodness,
the full regalia, appearance by Her Royal Highness Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex?
That is such an interesting question because, probably the production company, I think this is for Amazon Prime Video, right. I think, they probably would want her to be Meghan Markle because that's how she's best known. But don't call her Meghan Markle,
She's Sussex now.
That was, her friend was ticked off for calling her that. So she would want to be Meghan Sussex. But if it's a cameo playing herself, I'm sure they'd want to make clear it's Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex.
Can you find out more about this urgently, please? I need to know everything.
Yeah.
But from one half of the Sussexes to the other now, Prince Harry has written a Remembrance Day essay on the quote-unquote banter and bravery that makes him proud to be British. Now, you picked out one line that was quite telling, didn't you?
Yeah, it's a very interesting essay that he's written. Apparently he has written it himself, unlike his memoirs, which was he used a ghostwriter. But it's basically a sort of love letter to Britain and everything he misses, everything he loved about being in the forces, which we know was sort of his happiest time in many ways. He loved being in the forces. And the key word that I've picked up on is that he says, although I currently may live in America. I thought, wow, currently, I just mentioned in my column, for example, imagine how offended Meghan would be if he described her as his current wife.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking.
Current means for the time being.
Yeah.
And this ties in with everything I've heard about Harry's, I would say almost desperation to start not living all the time, but to start living again in Britain and spending much more time here with his family.
So do you think that's a significant hint of that aspiration, that he wants to be here more often?
Oh my goodness, I would say this is more than a hint. This is pretty much a statement, saying, if he's saying, I'm currently living in America, it suggests he won't be in the future. And for further evidence, just look at what Harry's doing. He's written to our new Home Secretary back on that question of security, because he's made clear he only really wants to come back with his family if he believes they're safe, and he wants to get that taxpayer-funded protection that was withdrawn from him. So it all ties in with that, and it's part of this plot I've written about before. And he does have support from senior government politicians in Britain and other courtiers who think would be a good thing for him to play more of a role.
Okay, well, should we get out of Montecito for the time being? Because let's bring it back to Windsor, where David Beckham has finally been given a knighthood. Now, we've talked about this on the show before, and David's become someone the king both likes, but also likes to, shall we say, deploy.
Yeah, Sir David Beckham really has become a member of the establishment now. For further evidence of that, just the other week, he was guest editor of Country Life, which is the sort of house journal of the hunting, shooting and fishing set.
Oh, yes.
And it really good. It was a great read, and he loves that. And he actually has quite a lot in common with King Charles. He loves gardening as well. He's really got into that. You know, they've got their love of roses and this type of thing. And he also is very stylish, I would say, David Beckham, you know, like the king.
Well, indeed, now, because his wife, now Lady Victoria Beckham, designed something special for David for the occasion. And it was inspired by Charles, wasn't it?
Yeah, so he wanted to look his best, as any of us would, you know, for an investiture at Windsor Castle. And he asked his wife, who's a fashion designer, to create a suit for him. A morning suit, that's a tradition of wearing a morning suit of tails for the palace. And she did so. I mean, I can't really imagine Victoria was, you know, cutting the cloth. And
no, she put up a picture on Instagram of her atelier team. So there was a team behind
So they
it.
did it for her, yeah. And David was very specific. So apparently he actually got out old photos of the king from his younger days,
Excellent.
Looking very dapper in morning suit, and said, you know, I want to look like that.
I love that, because the king was actually crowned as one of the 50 most stylish people alive in 2025 by British GQ magazine. Do you think it's deserved?
Yeah, I mean,
do.
the king always looks stylish, doesn't he? You know, it's kind of classic look. But I think it's fair. He's known for his elegance, and I mean, David Beckham, you know, in the past has been known for his experimentation, hasn't he, with his sarongs, his Mohican hairstyles, stuff like that. But now he's taken on more of a sort of elderly, elder statesman,
a regality
type role. Yeah. I think him and his wife are absolutely loving it. I did think they were a bit dark though, because the whole family, they all wore black for the investiture.
Did they? Oh.
And whereas, you know, he'd be expected to wear his morning suit, she could have worn whatever colour she liked. There's no need for them all to be dressed as if it was for a funeral.
Oh, I think Victoria likes to be sleek and chic and sombre these days.
They like that kind of matching ensemble, don't they?
Yeah, no, they looked good. Now, speaking of extremely stylish gentlemen, Englishmen, our Richard does get a lot of comments on his outfits, in particular his socks. So do tell the viewers about this week's pair.
Yes, I'm wearing socks which were kindly sent to me by the firm Corgi, which is in Wales. And it was the factory that was visited by the Princess of Wales earlier this year. And they were kind enough to send me a selection, so I'm wearing a pair of theirs.
I love that. We love supporting British business as well, don't we? Now, Corgi, the company who make Richard socks, hold a royal warrant and have supplied the royal household with high-quality knitwear for many years. And they want to offer our viewers a special discount. So if you would like to buy socks or jumpers approved by royalty, and more importantly, our Richard Eden, you can visit corgisocks.com and use the discount code PALACE20 at checkout for 20% off your entire order. Anything from Corgi would be the perfect Christmas gift. Do you not agree?
I do. And I would say in terms of regal clothing, what about you? I mean, that's a crown on your sweater today.
This is, I will put the details for this in the description below. This is another small British brand called Moloh, M-O-L-O-H. And when when I saw this, I thought, what better? It's the closest I'm going to get to wearing a crown, isn't it? Let's be honest. So all the details for your Corgi discount and where you can get this jumper will be in the description below. But for now, hear that. That's right. It's time for the unsung royal hero of the week. And Richard, you've nominated a young royal who very often flies under the radar.
Perhaps a future royal hero, yes.
Yes.
This is Lady Louise Windsor, who celebrates her 22nd birthday this Saturday. She's in her fourth and final year at St Andrews University, which viewers might remember is a university where Prince William and Catherine met. So it's got real kind of royal romance. And I think possibly Lady Louise might have a boyfriend she's met there. But just like William and Catherine, she's been left alone by the media while she's been studying.
Yep.
So we don't know too much, but what we do know is really interesting, actually. We know that she loves carriage driving. She used to do that with her grandfather, Prince Philip. That was one of his favourite pastimes, was driving carriages. We know that she's joined the Army Cadets. She's got some sort of officer title, I think. She's been really involved in that. So great kind of royal aspects to her character.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really interesting to see what she does in the future.
Well, she has been tipped to play a key role in William's future monarchy. Do you think that's true? Can you see that and what kind of part she might play?
Well, certainly, as I've said before, I would love Lady Louise to take on a role helping her cousin Prince William when he becomes king. You know, I mean, look, in the same way that Queen Elizabeth was helped so much by her cousins, such as the Duke of Kent, you know, and the Duke of Gloucester, these people really helped Queen Elizabeth. And I think Prince William's cousins could do that. I'm not sure that will happen, but who knows? Time will tell. And everything we've seen from Lady Louise so far suggests that when the time comes, she would definitely want to do her duty.
A great role model. Well, now, all that footage of Prince William in Brazil got us in the South American mood. So, as promised, this week's montage is all about the royals in South America. Some great ones here, so do enjoy. Oh, wasn't that lovely? Now, that's all from us this week on Palace Confidential. Do remember to like and subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals YouTube channel for more exciting royal content like this. For example, yesterday we put out an exclusive interview with Robert Jobson, whose new book is called The Windsor Legacy. You can click here for that. A reminder to sign up to the Palace Confidential newsletter by scanning the QR code on your screen now with your phone's camera or by clicking the link in the description below. Just time to say thank you to Richard for your wonderful contributions, and to Rebecca for her video diary, and to you for watching. Of course, we'll see you next time. Bye for now.